All right, welcome to another episode of Empty the Bench and the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, episode 196, on our approach to 200 episodes. Tom Albano, Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on our YouTube channel as we've crossed over 500 subscribers, youtube.com/ETB Network, and follow our website, etbpodcast.com. As well for blogs. We've added a couple more bloggers across the way as well, so make sure you check out all the new content that's coming to the website. And also make sure you check us out on all the audio platforms as well, Acast, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, across all platforms as well. And if you're listening to the audio platform, subscribe to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, check us out on the audio platforms, and make sure you leave a comment and subscribe as well. Whew. All right. We have a lot to get into this week. Well, two major topics this week.
Yeah, there's two things that we're probably going to spend more time than not on anything. And then you have little tidbits here and there on some stuff that's been happening in the sports world. But just to break down everything we're going to do today, we're obviously going to talk about the two big headlines this week, which has been, number one, Wander Franco and some certain allegations that have been coming on across social media. And then and what Major League Baseball and the Rays have done about it and what the next potential steps could be. And then just the absolute war of words that has been going on between James Harden and Daryl Morey, as it seems pretty clear that Harden wants out, and if he's not going to get out, he is going to make Daryl Morey's life a living hell, basically.
Gee, I'm going to steal a line from Hank and Dichter, who host our show, Hitting for the Cycle. Why am I not surprised that this is going on again?
Yeah, again. Other tidbits that we're probably going to get to today. Nick, just when you thought you were out on the Jets, they're trying to drag you back in with the signing of one Dalvin Cook. The Patriots, not to be outdone, because they seem to just be on the outside looking in at this point in the AFC East race, sign Ezekiel Elliott to their own one-year deal. So we'll talk about those signings. The Brewers. The Brewers could be relocating, or is this just an empty threat?
Who knows? You never know with Major League Baseball, especially when you have a new commissioner that just signed on for 5 years and has no idea what he's doing. So
5 more years. 5 more years.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think anyone's excited about that. But we have a lot to get into. Two big stories we're going to spend a lot of time on this week. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into the Wander Franco situation. Now, this kind of dropped on the scene. I was talking to one of our other guys, Kyle, who shared the story with me. And I shared it with you. First of all, it's not in English. That was another issue.
I was very confused. I'm like, what the hell? I said, who the hell is this? What the hell is this? What am I reading? Because you sent it to me without any context. I'm like, what's going on? And then you basically told me that Wander Franco apparently has an allegation against him that he's dating a 14-year-old, which, by the way, recently in the last couple of days, the Attorney General I think it's the Attorney General of the DR, has come out and said, well, basically, it's not one allegation. It's two allegations. Two potential, let's say, I guess the legal term would be minors that Wander Franco supposedly has had a relationship with.
Yeah, so these allegations came out, and what we see is the word that they used is grooming a 14-year-old. Now, again, we have to take these lightly because we don't know all the allegations involved. If you saw some of the videos that I dropped on our ETB Sports page, I was very, very clear and concise and said, allegedly and allegations, because we don't know the whole story. What we do know at this point in time is that Wander Franco was placed on the MLB restricted list, as both MLB and the Rays and Franco, I should say, all three agreed to put him on the restricted list.
And actually, this is a case, though, where despite being on the restricted list, he's going to get paid for his time on the restricted list.
You know what? And I this is more conspiracy than anything, but I think that the reason they're paying him is they want to make it look better than it actually looks. at this point in time.
So, in other words, it's an optics move.
I think it's a little bit of an optics situation going on. And I'll repeat what I said in the video if some people didn't see it. If these are true, he's got to be gone from baseball. He's got to be gone from baseball.
I mean, if these are true, Nick, then, and I believe, like, just like here in America, I know some other parts of the world, the legal age of consent, the legal age could differ. Obviously, here it's 18 years old. I think in the DR, I think it's 18 there as well.
It is 18. I was reading in some of the social media posts and some of what the newsmakers were saying.
The thing is that's been going on, and I think you're getting to this, is that it's about the girl's age.
Well, but at the same time, supposedly the parents okayed the relationship when he was 17 and she was 13. So supposedly the parents are responsible for part of this too.
Yeah. So now if that part of the story is true, now we're getting into some weird territory because now you're gonna see because when you say it's 17 and 13, then he turns 18. Now you've got somebody who's a minor and somebody who's of legal age. So now you're getting into sketchy territory.
Right. And people are concerned. And by the way, everyone should be concerned. It doesn't matter what country you're in. This is morally, we talk about this all the time, morally and ethically wrong in every way, shape, or form. I don't care who you are. I don't care if people are going to say, like, for older relationships, to say age is only a number. No, it's not age is only a number. This is a grooming situation, and supposedly it could be a rape situation too.
I mean, what else can you... All right, so let's talk about the other part. Actually, I should mention where I was going to go with it, is that there's all this commotion on social media that the girl may have lied about her age, that she may have been 19, and that this might be some sort of shakedown, some sort of blackmail situation, which I'm not going to rule that possibility out. I'm not going to rule it out, but overall, I think here in America, I would assume it would stretch over to the DR and such, is that I believe it's on the in this case, alleged perpetrator, I guess would be the legal term I would use with Franco, is that it's his responsibility to know the true age of the person he's in a relationship with.
Well, that's what I asked you, because I didn't know, like, if someone lies about their age,
I think it's still on the person.
So I just looked it up. The legal age of consent in the DR is 18 years old. So for the most part, except for a few countries, which for some reason, some of them are 14 years old. We won't get into that. But Dominican Republic is 18. That's the one we're focusing on right now. And it doesn't matter. You're 17. She's 13. There's something insanely wrong about this in every way, shape, or form. And you're playing in the U.S. You're playing in Major League Baseball in the U.S.
And not to mention that, as I told you during our pre-show meeting, Nick, this is also not the first time this season that we've had a controversy involving Wander Franco. You think back to, I think it was June, a couple of months ago at least, when Kevin Cash benched him for 2 games. Supposedly it was due to some sort of management issue.
Anger issue.
Yeah, supposedly some sort of anger issue, locker room issue, and basically saying that Wander Franco needed to basically be a better teammate. Now, granted, a locker room issue where you're benched for a game or 2 and this are 2 different completely things. It's apples and oranges. I'm just saying that it's not the first time this season that Wander Franco's name has popped up in not a good light.
I'm wondering, and this is speculation partially, but I'm wondering if that anger issue and him being benched, I wonder if stuff was going on at that point in time, which led to the anger issues, which led to him being benched. It could be part of it.
I won't necessarily go down that route right away, but I am curious as to the circumstances of that whole social media post. That is it a shakedown? Is it not? Did the parents approve of the relationship previously?
Well, that's supposedly the allegation that, or not allegation, but that's supposedly what they said, that the parents approved the relationship when he was 17, she was 13. Now, like we said, different countries have different rules, different ways they do things, but they're still 18 like we are here. So it's still technically the same law.
Now, and even if, let's say, the girl, well, let me bring that up because just from all the different social media hubbub, let's say the girl is 17, because Wander Franco, how old is Wander Franco right now?
He is 22.
He is 22. Okay, so no, I'm just curious. I'm like trying to do the math. I'm not trying to do the math. I did the math before. Now I'm trying to put you in a little situation because we're talking about ethics and such. How do you feel about, let's say, a 20-year-old being in a relationship with somebody who's 16, 17?
I don't know. I come more from the old fashioned stance of things where I feel like legal is legal. You have to be legal to have relationships. I don't. I come from a high school where like the seniors were dating ninth graders, and I thought that was weird. Like, so I'm the wrong person when it comes to asking like about younger relationships. I don't.
No, my question. So you're more the person that it has to be like within a year or two, basically.
2 or 3, essentially, like nothing more than 3. So,
and I'm just at this point, like you kind of said, I'm wondering where at this point, if all these allegations do come out to be true, because remember the whole point of the recent development is it's now not one allegation. There's a second allegation here. So the fact that we've got this second allegation now spurs even more questions, in my opinion. Was there a relationship before this girl came in? I mean, before the current girl came in.
well, yeah, and that's the other part of this story that supposedly a second underage girl came out and said that I'm a victim of this situation. Now, could that just be a jump on situation? Could that be a money thing? We don't know.
We don't
But
know because it could be that. Or I know, again, comparing apples and oranges, but you think about Deshaun Watson with the 20 plus allegations that came against him. I'm saying, is there going to be multiple of these kinds of cases? Because nobody had an idea about the second one until the Attorney General came out with that statement on Monday night.
by the way, and we've talked about very serious situations over the years with all types of allegations. I guarantee you this was going on for a while before it came out. That's
Probably.
usually how it goes. And someone leaks it out, the social media posts get leaked out, and that's how we find out these situations. Like I said, and we kind of had a little back and forth about this story over the last couple of days. Where is the Rob Manfred statement? That's what I want to know.
Again, well, here's what I'm going to say. Number one, you're not going to get anything from Rob Manfred because this is a negative story. What have we talked about? When it's negative on baseball, it's Major League Baseball.
I really don't care, to be honest. Rob Manfred's got to respond. I'm tired of when these situations happen and we don't hear anything from the commissioner in charge.
In all fairness, MLB, the Rays, and Franco, as you said, all agreed that he goes on the restricted list. At this point, the Rays had the roster spot freed up, so they were able to make a call up. They were able to go on with their season. And at this point, there's not much we can do because, I mean, the Rays and the league are investigating, but part of this, because of this legal matter of this, because it's a grooming, because it's a pedophilia kind of situation, it's not just these two. I mean, these two parties, the Rays and the MLB, that can do it. They also got to work with the authorities, the actual DR authorities.
DR, U.S. authorities, they got to work with everybody. And I don't know. Rob Manfred's got to make a statement. Like, we clown on Roger Goodell for the punishments he gives. At least he makes a statement when something happens.
In other words, you're saying Manfred at least has to come out as the supposed executive face of baseball to say something about it for the sake of.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say the integrity of the game because this is
No.
a situation. This is a situation that goes past the game.
This goes way beyond baseball, way beyond moral and ethical compound at this point. This is The clown in charge needs to make a statement because what are you going to do about this? And because you didn't say anything, the PR effed up. The Kevin Cash, which I agree with you partially what you said about Kevin Cash, but Kevin Cash looked like an idiot.
Okay, what Nick is referring to is Kevin Cash in the post-game interview said it was just a normal day off for Franco that was that was planned in advance, and Cash. I mean, it was just a normal day off, and he basically, when asked about certain, they obviously didn't use the media didn't use the full terms about what had happened, just said a social media allegation, and he basically said no comment, which I mean, what do you expect you're going to get from the Rays organization and Kevin Cash? Now, credit to the Rays organization. Afterwards, once they were able to get the story, the game was over. They were able to make a statement, a generic statement, but obviously that's what you're going to get from PR, saying that that Franco was going to the restricted list. The agreement had happened. They're working with and cooperating with authorities. So,
but is it really a punishment because he's getting paid?
Yeah, I actually agree with you that if he's going on the restricted list, you would assume that he's not going to get paid. But at the same time, I guess it's what you referred to before about an optic situation.
Yeah, but here's the other problem. The reason they quickly, because this happened quickly, that he got on the restricted list. What is the restricted list typically used for?
Troublemakers. The last time I remember the restricted list coming up, I mean, it was either Ozuna of the Braves with the DV allegations, or it was Bauer with his allegations.
Right, but I'm just saying the restricted list could be a whole list of things. So they're just like, all right, we'll put him on the restricted list. People won't think anything of it, and we move on. We're going to pay him, so it looks like he just went on the list for whatever reason. It's almost like they used it like the what do they call it? The bereavement list or whatever they call it, where they
bereavement leave. But I mean, bereavement leave and paternity leave, and this is three different kinds.
Oh no, but I'm just saying they're treating it like that, almost in a sense, by paying him and saying, "All right, you go away, go deal with what you got to deal with, and come back." That's what it looked like. The perception of it looked like it to me.
And I agree. It is a bit of a bad look. I mean, Nick, when I think about the restricted list and what this kind of situation is, and thinking back to the Bauer situation we talked about a couple of years ago, I wish there was more, at least clarity to me about moral clauses, because because I remember when we were talking about the Dodgers situation with Trevor Bauer, and I remember when we interviewed Michael Duarte. Nick Federa and I had interviewed Michael Duarte, and Duarte basically said, "Well, if he doesn't get charged, it might be hard for the Dodgers may have to pay out the Bauer deal anyways because there was no legal issue." Because that's something between the MLB and the NFL, is that in the NFL, I mean, look what we talked about with Kamara last week, that even if you're not, even if you don't get the worst kind of legal charges, or you don't get any sort of legal charges against you, they can still suspend you anyway.
Right. And that's the difference. Like in Major League Baseball, they actually need like a evidence or a charge that of the way the rules are done. That's why they finally put the domestic violence situation rules into play, because they were having such a major problem with domestic violence that they finally had to make rules for it.
Well, sports in general at that point was
but Major League Baseball, like the domestic violence numbers were piling up. I mean, and they weren't doing anything about it. They were just like, all right, go away, come back when you went to a therapy situation or whatever. Like Aroldis Chapman, what was it? His wife had to lock herself in a room because she was afraid of him. Like
Domingo Germán 2019, where the situation happened in front of somebody from Major League Baseball. Good going.
And now he's gone with the alcohol issues. So, like,
my point about the Franco thing is just imagine if this comes up, but no legal charge comes up, and the Rays want to get rid of that. Imagine that 13-year or whatever it was deal that they're still going to have to pay.
Well, okay, you beat me to the punch of where I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to say this thing. Hopefully, you don't make the same yelling comment towards me about the last time I said this. You got to cut his contract.
Listen, in a situation like this, when we have a pedophilia kind of situation, You are not wrong. The problem is going to be, can the Rays get out? Remember, MLB has fully guaranteed deals. Major League Baseball is going to have to basically, again, this is going to be a Rob Manfred situation.
And you know what? This is why I don't understand why the owner said 5 more years of Rob Manfred. Are you kidding me? Because of situations like this,
Because
where he's basically going to step in and say, "Well, it's a negative story. It's not my situation to handle."
But again, when there's no legal charge, he's going to say, "Oh well, suck to suck. You're going to have to pay that contract out."
I think again, allegedly, but I think something's going to come out of this eventually because there's just too much evidence involved in this.
Well, I mean, this is not one of those stories that we can just sweep under rug. Something we have to monitor the progress of this story.
Well, like I said, the social media posts that the parents supposedly approved it underage relationship on both fronts because he was 17 and she was 13. So, like I said, if this is true and it comes out to be true and it ends up in a court, he's got to go away. And I mean away, and be gone. And the Rays need to void that contract as soon as they find out. The first time the Rays spend money on any long-term contract, it comes back to bite them.
But as part of that, Major League Baseball has to allow them to do that. And if you're Rob Manfred and this kind of situation pops up, and if those allegations are true, that's where you got to step up and be MLB commissioner. Say for the sake of the public image of the game, he's got to go away, and you got to blacklist him.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to address one thing on social media, which I thought was inappropriate by a lot of people. And the whole joke about going to the minors is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like, you're dealing with
humor. What are you going to do?
No, but like, I just find it ridiculous. You're dealing with a situation of a 13 or 14-year-old girl, and you're going to say, oh, you should go back to the minors. He likes it there. I mean, come on. It's not right.
It's definitely at least gone stale. The more that the days go on and the more that's posted. Like,
and by the way, when it becomes true, you're all going to look like assholes if it becomes true.
So this is a story that we're just gonna have to continue to follow as the time goes on. But
like we both said, usually like we say we're gonna follow a story and then like 3 months later we find out. This is gonna trickle out over the next couple weeks and month.
I'll say it better. We better keep getting updates on this story.
And if Rob Manfred does nothing, his head's gotta be put on a platter if he doesn't do anything.
This is a bad look. Really bad look. All right. Speaking of really bad look right now for James Harden. Bad times right now, it seems, for the 76ers as James Harden and Daryl Morey are going at it. Daryl Morey basically in an update to something that I think we talked about it last week about James Harden wanting out, or I know Paul may have mentioned it, but Daryl Morey has basically put his foot down and has said, I am not going to trade him. He is going to be a part of the 76ers team. And James Harden basically refusing to attend camp, refusing to play for the team, actually was over in China a couple of days ago where he made a statement calling Daryl Morey a liar. We have these reports that, again, this is one of those maybe a he said, she said thing, but apparently the reason James Harden opted into his contract was because they were going to honor a trade request. But when the trade never went through, Morey just basically said, well, you're shit out of luck.
By the way, that it's 100% true why he opted into the contract. He was told, hey, make it easier for us. Take the opt-in in-house. Accept the option. We'll trade you, and hopefully we can find a trade partner. He wanted to go to the Clippers.
Yeah, and there is an update that I actually forgot to post to our social media that actually recently came out the other day. Apparently, James Harden is so done with Daryl Morey because originally his stance over the weekend was Clippers or bust. Apparently, there's a report that stance has now softened, and at this point, it's anywhere but the Sixers.
Gee, I wonder why. Because it hasn't worked for Damian Lillard so far with the Miami Heat. Why would you take the same stance It makes no sense. And I'm laughing about this because it is so ridiculous with the All-Stars in the NBA. I mean, the camp that the video that he's referring to is, like you said, he was down in China at an Adidas camp, which is his sponsor for his shoes and stuff. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's talking to a group of kids down at the Adidas camp, and he gets up and decides to put Daryl Morey on full blast. Like full blast.
In front of media too, by the way.
Right. And there were people with their phones taking records of this thing. So obviously it wasn't planned. So he, like you said, he gets up, he calls Daryl Morey a liar. I won't play for a liar. I won't play for an organization that's run by a liar. Now, here's the irony of this. Daryl Morey and James Harden technically have an 8-year relationship going back to Houston with the Rockets.
I was going to say, bring up something that we talked about in our pre-show meeting, because you are the Mr. NBA of this podcast, and I asked you, does some of this bad blood stretch back to the failed run that the Rockets had in Houston in the 2010s?
I don't know if it's bad blood. It's that James Harden, I guess, felt hurt or used, if that's the best way to put it, because he thought he was going to get a max deal, which, by the way, let's be clear about something. James Harden is not worth a max deal at all, by any stretch of the imagination. By the way, none of these guys are worth the money they pay for. Let's just be upfront and honest with this whole thing right now. Okay, so James Harden's a jerk. Let's just put it out there. Okay, we know this. He's requested to be traded. What is it? For the 4th time, I think he's been requested to be traded now. So from OKC to Houston, from Houston to Brooklyn
to Philadelphia.
So 4 times, I think. So it's like the boy who cried wolf. That's what James Harden has become at this point.
My question about the Brooklyn and Philadelphia thing. As somebody who's a Nets fan, I mean, do you feel relieved now that Harden is gone, even though now you're stuck with a Ben Simmons who won't play?
It's kind of a catch-22 on both fronts because, again, could Ben Simmons be something? Yeah, but 1, he needs to stop with the whole injury nonsense. And 2, he's got to get out of his own head. He actually could be a good player if he would just stop and get on the court and play. James Harden is always looking for the next ride out to the better situation. Think about it. OKC, and I think I was saying this to Paul from the 3&D the other day.
I mean, you think about that OKC, I know where you're going with it. You think about that OKC team. It was Kevin Durant, it was James Harden, and
Westbrook. Think about that for a second, though. That was an amazing team way back when. Look at it now. They're big, giant egos. Mental cases. Sorry, but that's what they are. And look what happened to them when they left OKC. They could not recover because they couldn't be their own guy, their own player. James Harden can't be a leader. You've said that many times.
I have said that James Harden cannot be the leader. I've said, and I will state it again, James Harden, I think, is the most overrated player in the National Basketball Association. He is one of those guys that I put him and CP3 kind of in the same club of when the lights go up and the game is on, can't handle the pressure. You lose the big game. You lose the big moment. He is not somebody. James Harden, to me, he's a B. He's a B.
Yeah, he'll always be a B player, but is he a good scorer? Yes, but unfortunately, he's kind of become the Russell Westbrook, where he can take a jump shot or he can hit a 3 while trying to fake a foul against the defender, which now they've changed that rule, so he can no longer lean into the defender anymore. So that's kind of gone from his game. When he decides to have free throws, that's his game, and that's it. He doesn't play defense.
And the sad part is, because I make mention before about Houston with Daryl Morey and such, and we talked about going to the better situation. Philly, in terms of the Eastern Conference teams heading into 23-24, is a pretty good situation. But the likes of him, like if he were to stay, him, Embiid, and such, I mean, Philadelphia, didn't they finish 3rd in the last season?
I can check on that, but they definitely finished in the top 4, at least from what I remember.
Because you think about some of these teams, like, I mean, you think about some of the better teams with this. Okay, it was 3. You think about some of the better teams going into this season. I mean, you think about Philadelphia with Joel Embiid coming off of an MVP year. You think about Boston and the run that they had during this past postseason. I mean, Milwaukee obviously is always going to be the picture of Giannis and their championship a couple years ago. And this is going to sound very strange and maybe a little biased, but you think about the kind of run that the Knicks had. The Knicks could not, I wouldn't put them above those three, but at least put them in the mix. The Heat, like there are some pretty decent. I'm saying that because he's in a decent situation already. And the fact that he's saying anywhere but the Sixers. Yes, it definitely helps the trade situation because you look about what's going on right now with Damian Lillard. But could he be putting himself in a worse, and I say worse situation, in other words, going to, say, a rebuild or a losing team just because he wants to get away from Daryl Morey?
Well, here's the problem. The team that he desperately wants to go to in the Clippers, why would you go there? There's two egos there already. Why would you want to go? You're going to deal with a Kawhi Leonard who doesn't stay on the court, a Paul George who barely stays on the court and cares more about his podcast than he does on the court. And now you're going to send James Harden there? What?
I agree. It's going to be one of those times of trying to make a big three, but the egos might clash. But here's my question. If a trade were to happen, you have said it 1,000 times this year, Nick, about you need to make the money work. You need to make
you got to match. Yeah.
How are they going to be able to acquire Harden? What would the Clippers have to give up?
That's why the Clippers pulled out.
Well, I was going to say, because we just talked about the big three, but wouldn't Kawhi or PG-13 have to be in one of those deals then?
Well, they can't trade Kawhi. Kawhi's damaged goods, so they can't trade him. Paul George is really damaged goods also, so they can't really trade either of them. And they don't want to trade either of them. That's the other part of the story that people are not realizing. The Clippers are trying to make, their splash is what I'll call it, even though I don't think James Harden adds to any team anymore to any value, because is he a good passer? Yes. He's going to be in the top 5 in assists. He will score, but he's not going to play a lick of defense if that's what you're expecting for a championship team to win. Look at Boston. They almost fell apart because they didn't play defense. They were an offensive red team.
And they just traded away their big defensive star, Marcus Smart.
Right. But I think in the long run, having a big man in Porzingis is actually going to help them to have a drop-down defender. But and look what they had to give Jaylen Brown, $300 million over 5 years. I mean, you're paying a guy $60 million a year when in my opinion, Jaylen Brown is really not an A player.
You think about, Nick, all the money that we're talking about with the Wander Franco contract, with the Jaylen Brown contract. We're talking about a lot of money here on this show.
Yeah, and the other part of this situation, which we haven't talked about yet with Harden, that there are reports out there that he'll do the same thing he did when he was trying to get out of Houston.
He's going to make Daryl Morey's life a living hell.
No, you know what James Harden's going to do?
He's fat. He show up the training camp, not in good shape.
He's gonna. I forgot who said. I think it was Ramona Shelburne, which we'll get to a report that she said. But I think that supposedly said he's gonna show up in a fat suit, and I'm like, and then I don't know who else said this, but someone said, "Oh, he's just gonna go enjoy those lemon pepper wings." I was like, "Whoa,
yeah, that was something."
I was like, "Oh my god!" But but I know what they mean. That he's basically going to go to the clubs. He's going to get fat, and purposely that's going to get him out of being in Philadelphia.
Well, so here's the report from Ramona that you're talking about. By the way, this is her on an ESPN.
NBA Today.
Yeah, she's on NBA Today, and here's what the full quote is. Somebody said to me yesterday, and now this is her quoting somebody else. This is only the beginning. This is just the beginning of what James Harden is going to do to make life very uncomfortable for the Philadelphia 76ers going into training camp.
If I'm Daryl Morey, what I basically would tell James Harden is, get your ass on the court or sit out. That's what I would tell James Harden at this point. I'm not trading you. Let's put it this way. Not only am I not trading you, I can't trade you because you're damaged.
So at this point, because you're Mr. NBA, this isn't like the NFL where if you sit out for 10 weeks or so, you become a free agent next season. He's just going to rack up fines at this point if he sits out.
Well, it's not. Well, technically, it's not fines. It's just that he won't be paid. So it is basically James Harden
emotional damage.
Because
no. You know what he's running into right now? You know what his luck is about to be?
But the sad part is he's made so much money that he wouldn't. Again, this is a Kyrie Irving situation all over again.
But I mean, the amount of control he has over the situation, really, I know the NBA is a player-driven league, but at this point, it really should be none. And I'll ask you this at this point. Is this a situation, or is this going to turn into a situation where Silver has to step in and say something?
First of all, Adam Silver's not going to step in and do anything because he's just going to watch from the sidelines and say, all right, everybody, where's my dollar signs this year for the league? Where are my all-stars? So it's gonna be a battle between.
So in other words, if he says something, it's just gonna be a generic. I hope they can make it work or something like that.
Actually, ironically, this is what's his name, the owner that we just talked about with the Commanders. This is Josh Harris, his team. Mm-hmm. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out. But my gut is that magically he will end up back on the court with the Sixers at some point because he's not going to let $35.6 million just go off into the wind. Even though to him, I think he's made like $280 million from the NBA, plus endorsements off the court. So it's not like he's hemorrhaging for money. There are people. So I was also reading a number that every game he sits out, I think it's like $365,000 a game. Hey, we'll be lucky if we see $365,000, period.
Right. So for him, he's got to step up and play. I mean, otherwise, Nick, I have another solution for him. I've got a trade partner for him for a suggestion for Daryl Morey.
Long Dong Tigers. Ni hao! Ni hao! Ni hao!
Actually, if you saw the clip we put up on our YouTube channel, it actually blew up because people actually thought it was hilarious. But
that clip never fails me.
That clip never. When you said that to me the other day, I was like, "Yep, that's about right." I was waiting for you to do that because I'm like, "Yeah, just send him to China." He was already in China. We should have just. We should have sent him to China and threw away the key and said, "Don't come back," because James Harden has no interest in being a teammate. He's never been a teammate. Look at those three guys. I'll go back to OKC again. KD, not a team guy. Westbrook, not a team guy. Harden, not a team guy. And these three played together.
And here's my question, by the way, because you're talking about not a team guy. I mean, we talked about Adam Silver's role, but how do you feel if you're Joel Embiid? Because you're coming off of an MVP season. You're trying to lead the Sixers out of this whole mess that has been the process. Like,
by the way, I'll say that was a lucky MVP by Joel Embiid, by the way. Because he was hurt for most of the season. Well, or at least sitting on the bench. But now with all these dumb rules with the MVP, now you have to play a certain amount of games to be an MVP. But
my question, as the player leader of this team, what is his role supposed to be in all of this?
Well, Joel Embiid was always the leader of the team, even with James Harden there. Anyone who says
leader, I said player leader of the team, just to clarify. I'm not talking about a coach or an owner. I'm talking about out of all the players. He is.
No. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that Joel Embiid was always the player leader of the team. James Harden, like you've said, I've said, the whole world has said, cannot be a leader at all. Is he a scorer? Can he do certain things well? Yes. He's a star player. And I begrudgingly say that because I don't know if I can call him a star anymore at this point. But James Harden has been a headache everywhere he has gone. Oh, well, when I go off to my next team, I'm going to be in a good situation.
And by the way, of all the people you want vouching for you on social media, you don't want Kyrie Irving to be that guy.
Oh, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I was like, what? I had the reaction.
Wow.
Because I was like, oh my God, what the heck? Kyrie Irving. And by the way, the hot take, which I told you I was going to make, James Harden is worse than Kyrie Irving.
Whew.
He is worse than Kyrie Irving because he has demanded more trades. He has made more trouble. Do you remember the whole situation where he went off to France and he got in trouble with got into a fight?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
He's always causing trouble. He doesn't care. To him, and that's where Kyrie Irving and James Harden collide in that regard because they've made so many millions from the NBA. Like all the other stars, oh, I can do what I want. Fine, get rid of me. I already made my millions of dollars. I don't need you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, That's essentially what it is. James Harden is a joke, and James Harden he's never going to win a title, ever. I don't care where you put him. If he stays with the Sixers, there's always going to be a clash collide with Daryl Morey.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Daryl Morey, I'll give you another quick hot take. Daryl Morey's not a top executive in the NBA. He's not. I'll tell you right now, he's not in the top 200 executives all time in this league.
Oh my God!
He's a numbers guy. That's what his claim to fame was. He was a numbers guy that somehow became a name, and the Fertitta brothers who own the Houston Rockets. What a man. Yes, I know. I know why you're laughing at that because but
That's great.
the James Harden situation is a joke, and he'll never win.
Of course, I can't go even and empty the bench without a mention of something UFC related on the show.
Oy. All right, what's next?
All right, let's Nick, how about we take a break? We had like about 20 minutes left in the show. Let's take a break. Let's explore something a little more local, a little more, good fan base related. How about the JEST, just. And Dalvin Cook, all of a sudden signing a 1-year deal. So it took a while, and he didn't get $10 million. He only got about 7 or 8 million. It's a deal worth up to $7 or $8 million, I think, but he ends up getting his deal. And not to be outdone, the Patriots, because it seems like they're slugging behind in this race for AFC East dominance, they signed Zeke Elliott to a 1-year deal. That's only worth like 4 or so.
Well, speaking of signing a running back, but my point is, I was going to say you should change that headline, though, because even though it says Dalvin Cook signs 1-year deal with the Jets, it should say Dalvin Cook signs 1-year deal with Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers made the move to bring Dalvin Cook.
I was going to ask you about, because I was watching the K show recently and the other day, and they were talking about, how much role did Aaron Rodgers have? Obviously, Cook, we haven't mentioned it before, and we haven't mentioned it's been very quiet, that allegation of supposedly paying somebody off the $1 million, giving the woman the $1 million, who turned it down, but no charges ended up. I shouldn't say no charges ended up, but my whole thing is, so you think that Aaron Rodgers may call the shots?
Oh, by far he's calling the shots. Any guy that signs with this team, it has to be through Aaron Rodgers. By far. Look at all the guys from Green Bay that ended up, that we should call it the New York Packers.
True. I guess my question is, because they were debating about this on the K show. I know I'm going to make a lot of connections to K show, but I think they had the most interesting conversation about them, maybe because it has the New York connection. But, when Joe Douglas came in, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have presented them as guys of character. And you had this allegation against Dalvin Cook. Do you think they didn't want to bring him in, but Rodgers kind of forced his way? Or do you think it's more of a matter of there's so much pressure on this Jets team that you add somebody like a Cook just for the sake of, having more star power?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's called the 2-year window. That's what it's called. I mean, now, could it be more than 2 years? Who the hell knows? Tom Brady played until what? He was 46? I mean, but my point is, this is the Aaron Rodgers window. That's what it is. The ownership is finally saying, hey, we got a quarterback. We need to capitalize. We need to win now. And whatever it takes, we will get.
Now,
that's essentially what this is.
Now, the other thing to make mention of, because you talk about, we need all of this, because, and I make mention, that the Jets still have a nice young core around them, where you got Garrett Wilson, Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. You have Sauce Gardner, last year's Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Breece Hall.
And I think Breece Hall was going to be the main question, is that they do have a young running back in Breece Hall. Now, obviously, Breece Hall had the season-ending injury last year. The Jets and him are saying that, that they are aiming that he is going to be ready for week 1. My question is this, and they were talking about it on K Show too, with this Dalvin Cook signing, is that a sign that maybe there's a bit of a question mark on Breece Hall?
Oh, there's definitely a question mark. Definitely a question mark, because usually it takes like a year-ish after coming off an injury to get full running back status back. That's why Dalvin Cook is in here. Now, do I think he's going to be the one? I don't know. I still think Breece Hall will be the one, but you're going to see Dalvin Cook maybe become, ironically, with the other name on this banner, the Ezekiel Elliott down guy, like on third down,
Right.
to put the ball in the end zone.
The thing is with Dalvin Cook, and I've said it on this show too, is obviously we've talked about the whole thing. I mean, the running back situation has been the story of the summer in the NFL. From Saquon Barkley to Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs playing all of them. But Dalvin Cook, he's coming off of 4-5 seasons in a row where he's made the Pro Bowl, rushed over 1,000 yards. So we talk about the age of running back and how limited of a window running, but we haven't, we've seen the damaging injury history and we have these damning allegations, but in terms of his on the field play, we haven't seen any sort of slowdown from him. So
I read a stat before that he has the second most yards from scrimmage behind Derrick Henry in the last 4 seasons. So
now,
what does that tell you?
And now I know they were talking about on K show that his yards per carry average were dropping over the last several years, but again, when you have somebody who scrambles for 1,000+ yards a season, you can't get much better than that. That's the only reason why I say I don't know if I can say Breece Hall is the one, at least not until Dalvin Cook shows some slowdown sign, or with these allegations with the woman, if come 2024, like how Kamara got suspended 3 games for this season, if Cook gets suspended a few games next season.
Right. And I also think it's going to be an issue with the offensive line of the Jets. That's the big question mark. Will Cook be able to get behind that offensive line? If they're not going to keep Aaron Rodgers on his feet, then you're obviously not going to get the ball to Cook. So the offensive line is the question mark. The Vikings didn't really have a good offensive line, and he still put up 1,000-yard season.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback situation is a joke with Kirk Cousins, but
although Kirk Cousins had a last good few seasons, you can't deny that.
Right, but there was quite a few times where he got pressured. He was probably one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL last year.
Now, Ezekiel Elliott, on the other hand, I don't know how much his signing really does to help the Patriots. I know the Patriots are very down on Mac Jones. I know their lines have struggled.
I heard another reason why they brought him in was that they want him as a run block guy. Because he's bigger. They wanted him in to protect Dak, which I thought was kind of bizarre considering that's not really Zeke's game. Mac, excuse me. Mac, because I'm thinking Cowboys. But my point is that they want to keep Mac up on his feet because he kept getting knocked down so much. So, I don't know. I don't know if I like that theory, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens with it. I mean, I'm not a Zeke guy. I think Zeke, again, is going to be a third down back. When you're in the red zone, that's when you're going to use him.
Right. Plus, on the other hand, they also still have Romador Stevenson. So,
I just don't see the Patriots being competitive, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we were going to go on the same take that the Pats they have definitely fallen behind the Bills, the Jets, and Dolphins in terms of the competitiveness for the AFC East title. And
I'll give you one more. I think Belichick's on the hot seat.
That's quite the take. I don't know if I can go on that one.
It's already been out there as speculation that he's on the hot seat. The Kraft family has been questioning it a bunch.
It's funny. It's fun. I'm just saying it's funny that the Pats of the Kraft family can do that, but not the Yankees and the Steinbrenner family.
That's a whole nother story for another day.
I know. Here's my question though, because it's just to wrap things up about Cook potentially being a game changer for the Jets and this fight for the division. Now Vegas is still favoring the Bills as the team to win the AFC East, which means if the Jets the Jets will have to do it as a wildcard spot. I guess you're talking about the 2-year window. With the signing of Cook, is it now a Super Bowl bust? Is it a conference title bust? Is it still what you said when Rodgers was first signed? It has to be 10 games in the playoff spot? Because remember, you're still competing with the Bills. So there's a chance you'll have to be a wild card team, and then you'll have to maybe win 3 games on the road.
First of all, I don't trust the Bills right now. The way the whole chemistry issue that Allen and wide receiver went, Diggs are having the issue with the chemistry, even though they've come out and said everything's fine. Liar. But and then they have the running back situation. They just lost their running back to an injury. I mean, they're the favorite right now. I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay.
So, but you asked me where do they need to finish? They got to win 10 games. That's a minimum. They got to win 10 games because yeah.
Okay, no, I was gonna say. So the line has not changed for you. It's still 10 games. 10 games in a playoff spot will still keep you happy, and everything else will still be a bonus.
Yeah, because I'm getting tired of like WFAN in New York and all these stations in New York saying, "Oh, it's a Super Bowl or bust." Do they realize how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl and win?
And we're just talking about the AFC East. Like they were talking about again on K Show. What happens if you go to the AFC Championship game and then you got to play Buffalo, or you got to play Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, or you got to play Cincinnati and Joe Burrow? You know, you're not in those situations. You're not losing to a scrub. Like, especially in KC, you're losing to Patrick Mahomes.
First of all, Patrick Mahomes is the next dynasty, in my opinion. The way that's going with Andy Reid and Mahomes and
they were able,
Kelsey.
Nick, that's the point I was going to go. If they were able to, survive the loss of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey stepping up, and now they're getting all these younger receivers like your Sky Moores, and then what's his name from the Giants? The
one they traded for.
Yeah. Slipping my mind.
Looking it up.
Kadarius Toney.
That's it. Yep. But it's going to be tough to beat them. So that's why I'm getting tired of. I wish WFAN and ESPN 98.7 would put the brakes on the whole comment of it's a Super Bowl or bust season. Would it be nice if they made a nice long run in the playoffs? Yes. They got to make a playoff run. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Here's what I said. If this is more of a meet in the middle, I think this year you need to see if it all works first and get to 10 wins plus a playoff spot, and then next year can be the Super Bowl or bust year.
Yeah, to expect Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl in year one, showing up in New York, that's a tall task.
Especially because we talk about all the youth that they've got. I mean, you hear the term sophomore slump. Are Wilson and Sauce going to be, and even Breece Hall with his injury, are they going to be liable for that kind of slump?
And then you have the injury with Becton. That's a whole nother issue that people are not talking about.
So when it comes to the pressure of Super Bowl or bust, here's what I say.
RELAX.
I can't even be mad at that because that's essentially what it is. Like I said, WFAN, ESPN 98.7, all of New York, the digital platforms need to relax and stop. They're not, let's be real, they're not winning a Super Bowl this year. They're not. The Chiefs have a better chance. I don't know about the Bills. Everyone says the Bills, but the Chiefs are the defending champion right now.
And the Jets have a tough schedule. Both New York teams have a tough schedule. Have two of the hardest schedules in the NFL. So
the New York media needs to take a deep breath and don't clown when they don't win the Super Bowl.
That's easier said than done.
Trust me, during the NFL season, I will clown on the New York media.
I know. All right. Couple other stories to get that are just little quick fire at the end. Like what was it at the end of PTI they do? Oh, the big finish.
The big finish, yeah.
All right. Milwaukee Brewers. A story has come out, a report that they could consider relocation. So supposedly they want public funds. They need some renovation. They need to improve their ballpark. And apparently they are saying that, hey, if you don't give us these funds, we're going to have to consider moving out of Milwaukee. And Rob Manfred supposedly is supporting their decision and trying to, put his own pressure on officials to have the Brewers get the funding.
I mean, and I'm going to laugh at this again because we're talking about billionaire owners asking for public funding. Am I crazy to think that this is ridiculous?
I mean, it's kind of funny that, and we talked about it right before we started recording, that Bud Selig's old team, the old commissioner of baseball, is being pressured by the new commissioner of baseball. I can't say new, but newest commissioner of baseball to, hey, fork up the funds. Otherwise, I'm supporting their decision to And Milwaukee has been around for years as a baseball.
They're a great fan base, great stadium.
You had the Brewers. No, I'm just saying you had the Brewers, and then before the Brewers, the Braves played in Milwaukee.
Right before they relocated. But yeah, I mean, again, their mascot when he slides down the slide and the home runs. I mean, of course, you went through a time period where Ryan Braun completely destroyed the reputation of the franchise, and you had guys like Prince Fielder who barely could run around on the field and stealing people's nachos. Oh, wait, that was Detroit. But what?
But they were still stars.
They were stars, but I don't know. This is another headache that Rob Manfred's got to deal with, but he won't because it's a negative headline for baseball. So
there you go.
There it is. It only took 57 minutes.
That's the whole good old Rob Manfred, mostly.
Just wait. We're still hearing speculations about the Vegas story with the I almost said Raiders, the Athletics.
Yeah. All right, this story kind of caught me by surprise, and it's kind of like I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So Michael Oher, who was the subject of the movie, the Academy Award-winning movie The Blind Side, former NFL player, basically claiming that his adoption by the Tuohys is a lie, saying that he was basically, as you kind of put it before, Britney Spears and forced to sign a conservatorship.
Was tricked into it. Yeah. So this is a very bizarre story. So like I was saying to you, basically Michael Oher, former NFL player, got tricked, supposedly, again, we don't know, into a conservatorship by this couple. And I'm trying to find the story again because I lost it. But and then they made a movie called The Blind Side, which was a whole big movie about being homeless and having other issues.
Basically, to make it to the NFL, being adopted, getting into the NFL.
Right, and supposedly the movie made $300 million. A lot of money. And supposedly he had no idea that, like, he essentially got tricked and all that stuff, and now he's suing. And now the couple is claiming that they're basically being, what was the term? Shaken down, thank you, for $15 million or more. If he is owed money for the movie, give him the damn money. It's about him.
I'm just saying that this is a sad kind of situation because you think about the kind of story where the Michael Oher has in this, this movie that's won awards and won millions of dollars, and now everything's just kind of falling apart.
I think Sandra Bullock won an Academy Award for this movie, if I'm not mistaken.
No, she was in the movie.
She was in the movie, yeah, that I know. But this is not going to end well. It's going to go to court. I think eventually, though, he will win because if it's a sad story. I mean, he's going to get paid one way or the other.
Sure.
So, but $300 million on a movie about your life, that's an insane feat.
All right, one last thing from us here. A little bit of an off-the-bench kind of story. Stage Steele has leaving ESPN after 16 years, saying that she can, quote, can exercise her First Amendment rights more freely, kind of going along the lines, Nick, of Charlie Arnold.
Well, it's funny you say that. Hey, Clay Travis, this is a message to you. You should go jump on this one because she's essentially saying, I want to work at Outkick. I mean, now we all know Sage Steele got in trouble during the COVID pandemic and not taking the COVID vaccine. And she went on, oh God, what's the name of the quarterback's podcast? Jay Cutler's podcast.
I forgot.
And made those comments about the COVID vaccine that obviously was going to get her in trouble because of the ESPN policies, which I don't blame, by the way. Like, if during the middle of the pandemic, you needed the vaccine. So that got her in trouble. Then they took her off air for a while. Then she sued Disney and ESPN for saying her First Amendment rights were taken. Then they tried to pay her off, which looked bad because obviously they knew they made a mistake. She basically said, F you, I don't want your money. And basically they came to an agreement. We don't know what the terms are. And she said, adios, I'm out of here.
Not surprised. Not surprised at all.
And who was the first person to do a video about it? Charlie Arnold from Outkick.
Of course.
By the way, and I said this to you before we started, I was a fan of a lot of these people back in the Sports Center day. Sage was not a bad person. She went from being a good person to a bad person. That's just how I see it. Her politics took over. And unfortunately, she was one of very few conservatives at ESPN. Again, not making it political, but ESPN is a very left-ish company. We all know this for a fact. This is not any news to all of us. So conservative people just don't work at ESPN. It doesn't work that way. So that's why she left. She's getting her First Amendment rights. And I'm going to say in about a month or two, you're going to see an announcement from Clay Travis and Outkick that she's going to be doing some kind of show there.
Probably. And by the way, I'd say the only right-wing person that really works with ESPN at this point is my guy, Dana White.
Oi.
All
Well,
right.
I don't know. What is McAfee's stance? I don't even know.
I don't know.
You know what? That's a good thing that we don't know, because I think he does the right thing just by keeping it out of the limelight.
Mm-hmm. At this point, just shrug.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. And we say c'est la vie, or we should say au revoir to you too, as we end episode 196 of Empty the Bench. Before we get out of here, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to follow us across social media, Facebook, Instagram, and before I screw it up, X.
And by the way, just after this show airs, make sure you tune into the season 2 premiere of Game On, which is back. Johnny Montalbano is back with content. So you get more sports content on our day. So ETB, Game On, back together again for more content. Game On will be on Tuesday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. There'll be 5 to 10 minute little shows those days. And then obviously next week, we'll talk a little bit about it on next week's show, about the Football Friday coming back once we have all the parameters down. We have our meeting coming up for a little behind the curtain there. So make sure you join us next week. We'll get into all the rules for how we're handling Football Friday this season.
So, all right. Make sure to follow us across social media at ETB Sports, and make sure to follow the network across social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. You can find our own social media on our little banners here, on our little name tags, and Morgasen Radio, Thomas J. Albano. If you are listening on Acast and the audio-only platforms, make sure to check out our video feed over at youtube.com/ETB Network and hit the subscribe button. We just passed 500 subscribers, looking to climb, of course, next to 600 subscribers, and so on and so forth. And if you are on watching us on the video feed, we thank you very much. And don't forget to check us out on the audio-only platforms too. So, number one, you don't have to see our ugly mugs. And number two, you can take Empty the Bench with you on the go. And don't forget to go to etbpodcast.com for all great content, information about the network, blogs from some of our hosts. Hank's doing a great job there. And we got some new bloggers coming in, some new blood coming in. So, you know what? Go check those guys out and give them some support. All right. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we made it. Hey, we're still doing better than most of our longer episodes.
Mm-hmm. I was just making sure I got all the information, all the all the housekeeping stuff out of the way before we ended.
Well, for Tom Albano, I'm Nick Morgasen. We'll see you next week for 197 of Empty the Bench. Good night, everybody.
Take care.